Come here! Let's go. Give me a flipper.
I'm ready.
No. Brittany, hang on. Start the show off. What I need you to say is, all right, let's go.
All right, let's go.
Amateur Hour, episode 42 is on, and we had a special guest there, Brittany Granger.
Yes.
Several special
What's
guests.
up?
So she has started us off. Brittany, how do you feel about the Flag Football League thus far?
I think it's great, even though I haven't watched one game because I'm at home sleeping or in my pool because
okay.
my husband likes to fight.
Well, that was a good cameo there. We had
It's weird that Brittany showed up without her husband Brandon. I don't know why she's here by herself out all night long.
the podcast has become very scandalous lately. But anyway, Brittany says it's very successful so far.
All
nobody can
dozen
hear it.
listeners agree with her.
Brandon, do you have anything about the Flag Football League you'd like to say?
Brandon shakes his head no.
He said no. All right.
He does his work on the field.
So what we're going to do here is we'll preview the playoffs that are going to happen, and in the second segment we have a really special guest for you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Troy.
Yes.
All right. The regular season has ended, and we're into the playoffs. And do you want to talk about the teams first? 6-1 maybe? No? Yes?
Cody, I want you to. We could talk about week 9 and then go 6-1. Week 9 was the last week of the regular
we can do
season.
that if you want to do it that way. All right, 409 boys technically played Salty when the 409 boys won because Salty are a bunch of douchebags and forfeited.
They did.
All
409 boys got to win because of douchey forfeit.
Next game was Team New Balance playing the Valve, and that was 48-28. New Balance coming away with the win. What do you have to say about that game, Troy?
The only thing I remember is that Team New Balance won 48-28 over the Valve.
It's a good game. I really like that one. It's a 20-point game. All right, 12 p.m. game was Showstoppers versus GVNG. Showstoppers came away with the win, 33-26.
I honestly can't remember anything about that game, but it looks like a close score. So, but the Showstoppers are the number 1 seed with that win.
Yeah, I bet they had more touchdowns than the other team. The next game was the Herd playing the Expendables. Herd winning 28-24. Troy, what do you remember of that game?
I don't know. I played in that game, and it's been so long, I honestly don't remember either. I know we ended up scoring late and winning 28-24.
That was a great review of Week 9 because the Storm played Prestige Worldwide. Didn't happen. Storm won by forfeit. And the hang on. The Showstoppers played Team New Balance.
Yes.
Showstoppers won against that team. Some score to another score. You didn't. There you go. You got it now.
41-6.
41-6. What a good week of football. All right, on to the playoffs. What in the holy Troy's flipping screens in front of me?
It's a touch screen. It's a touch screen.
All right. So we'll go 6-1.
6-1.
With how we feel about the teams, right?
6-1.
Okay. We'll actually do this well.
6-1.
Number 6, the Expendables. Thoughts on the Expendables?
The Expendables are 4-5 on the season, have the 6th seed. That's, a below 500 record. They got into the playoffs. They lost their last game of the season against the Herd. They will be playing the Herd again in the first round of the playoffs. It should be a good game. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, I'll say this about those guys. They played really close games with the 3 best teams in the league. I think losing by a total of fewer than 10 points in all the games. They lost like a 2-point game to the 4-9 boys, a 1-point game to the Showstoppers, and a 4-point game to the Herd. So, yes, ma'am, we're doing great.
They were very aggravated against in the game against us. They feel the refs were not on their side. I feel like they'll be aggravated again, just because.
All right, the next team is number 5. Oh, hang on, Brandon Granger. Nothing? Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Number 5, Team New Balance. Troy, Team New Balance.
They have a 4-5 record also. That seems very odd because this team has a bunch of athletes. They're 4-5, and they're the 5 seed. That seems very odd to me. You would think they'd be like 6-3, 7-2, something like that. But they're 4-5, and they're the 5 seed.
Yeah, they are. And they wear gray and red sometimes, which is a very good color combination.
And it's sponsored by New
honestly,
Balance.
To me, that's the team that I can't remember all year. I don't know if that's good or bad, but they like blend into the wallpaper, and they're just like the team that's kind of been there. So they're a very average team in my opinion.
They have that guy that throws the ball and scores.
Yeah. Brandon Granger, anything on Team New Balance? Nope?
He doesn't even know who we're talking about.
All right. Number 4 at 6-3 is GVNG. Troy, GVNG.
GVNG has a record of 6-3. Their 3 losses are to the 3 teams ahead of them, the Showstoppers, the 409 Boys, and the Herd. So that's them.
Well, just because I feel like I owe it to people who actually listen to this, I'll tell them that I think that team has a lot of really good athletes. However, I don't think that they are quite as good as Team New Balance or the Expendables because I don't think they can actually get it all together at the same time.
Just yet.
So
they will get it together eventually.
I think if they all stuck together and they actually had an idea of what they were doing, they would do well. But I feel like they're too scatterbrained, so I don't think they're going to do well in the playoffs.
I do feel like if this team had all of their guys and put it all together at the right time, they could win the championship this season.
I agree, but I don't think they will. So number 3 is the Herd. Troy, go ahead with the Herd.
The Herd is 7-2 on the season. We have put together a fantastic regular season record, and we are playing the 6-seed Expendables in the first round of the playoffs. Man, what else can you say about a team that has kind of morphed itself into a young and old team, like a combination of brand new guys and the same old characters that have been around for 15 years. I mean, man, it's impressive.
I'll tell you who could say what you could say. It's Brandon Granger. Go ahead. What do you think about the Herd this year?
He just shrugs his shoulders.
Show up on Sunday.
He shows up on Sunday and scores touchdowns and makes everyone look stupid out there.
All right. So
glad he's on my team.
Number 2, the 409 Boys.
With a Z.
Troy, go ahead.
409 Boys are 8-1 on the season. Their one loss is an overtime loss to the Showstoppers. That's it. That shows that they are a very good team. They've dominated everybody else they've played this season. They are the 2 seed.
Man, they're the most veteran team out there.
Brandon has some very good opinions on the 409 Boys.
Brandon Granger, go ahead with 409 Boys opinions.
They're a really good team.
They're really.
They're a really good team. They are. A bunch of.
He was saying other things until that moment.
No, I said that.
bunch of veteran guys going out there having fun. You know, their pitches are. I know this sounds very minor, but their pitches, I think, are the very best in the league. They do the snap to the receiver thing really well. They have, what's that guy's name? Chase Boudreaux, who doesn't play with his prior team anymore to play with this team. And he seems to be flourishing with the team he's on now.
He does like to scream at people a lot.
And he's very motivational.
Very vocal. Very vocal.
The 409 Boys have a great chance at winning it, but then there's the number 1 team, and that's the Showstoppers at 9-0. So, Troy, what do you think about the Showstoppers?
Walt is the captain of the Showstoppers.
Yes, he is.
Jason Williamson is, in my mind, the MVP of the league. He honestly didn't win the MVP of the league, but he, in my mind, is the MVP of the league. Too
bad Facebook disagreed with you and they gave it to Daniel Limbrick. But Jason Williamson has been a force all year. And Brandon Granger, what do you think of the Showstoppers?
They are the number 1 seed, he says.
Brandon says that they are the number 1 seed for a reason, and they are that seed for a reason. Although Walt, I don't know, isn't here today, I still feel like he's done a good job as a team captain, and I think they'll do great in the playoffs. So it should be a good time.
If I had a vote, Brandon Granger would be the MVP of the league, the entire league this season.
Actually, if I had a vote, he would be the MVP as well. But I don't have a vote. So.
I don't have a vote.
Yeah.
Facebook. We had more Facebook votes than we have people in the league.
Too many Facebook votes. But all right, so that's how the playoffs are going to shake out. In the next segment, we're going to have a guy from KFDL News named Chris Mullooly. We're going to interview that fella, and he's pretty interesting. I think you'll all enjoy it. So stick around and listen to Chris Mullooly. Troy, anything else for the playoffs?
No, I'm excited. I'm ready for the playoffs to come here. I'm ready to see what happens and see who gets that championship belt.
All right. Well, stay tuned, and you will hear from Chris Mullooly. All right. So we have a good segment here. We talked to Greg Kerr on the last Amateur Hour, and this week we have an even bigger local star, much bigger actually. We have Chris Mullooly. Right?
Thanks for having me. I know this is my first podcast, so I'm pretty excited. I'm glad that, like I said, you were able to say my name right for the first time. Not many people could do it. I get some C's in there: Mullooly, Mullooly, Mullooly. So, yeah, it's good to be here. We had some pretty funny talks before this, so hopefully we'll catch into some of that. But I'm happy to be here.
All right, so I'm sorry, I have to ask. Mullooly is what sort
It's
of
Irish.
name?
It's so I am. My father's side is 75% Irish, 25% Scottish, but it's an Irish name. So I'm really 50-50, 50% Italian, 50%Irish. The Irish is Mullooly. The Italian part is my mom's side. Her maiden name's Iannucci. So Iannucci. So if you're gonna say Iannucci, yeah, that's what. If you're gonna get really Italian, yeah. So either way, I'm going like full Irish, like Mullooly, or we're going full Italian. So either way, it works out pretty well.
Well, I'm 50% Norwegian, 50% Irish, 100% Vidorian. So get that.
Is the Vidorian that? There's gotta be like a Vider like last name that like comes up a lot.
Oh, I mean. I don't know.
It's Quartz. It's Quartz. Quartz is the Vider last name. We have ruled Vider for years with an iron fist, or well, an aluminum foil fist. It is Vider.
Who's the hand of the king in Vider? Who's the hand of the king?
The hand of the king in Vider?
Yeah.
Larry the cable guy?
Well, my cousin...
Or the Burger King that'll open
The Burger
up.
King.
Yeah.
My cousin recently got elected mayor of Vider, so I'm kind of proud of that, but I don't know who her hand would be. I guess her husband. That's about it. But
keep it in the family.
Yeah, what are the odds of that?
So, Chris, your last news story brought you to Crystal Beach, right?
Yeah, Jeep weekend.
Okay.
Topless weekend. I spoke with the Doug Saunders, who is the emergency service district manager of Galveston County. He said he's expecting anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people, which is like kind of like when I was thinking of it, kind of mind-boggling for something like that. Peninsula's like that small to like have it. But I mean, I was down there like 11 o'clock, and like there were so many people, many people. So many. And you don't realize like when you're driving around, like there aren't that many Jeeps around Southeast Texas. Like there just aren't. So I don't know where these people are coming from.
Right. So you are from?
I'm from Long Island, Rockville Center, New York. 516-11570. That's what we rep.
He's just as proud of his area code as we are around here.
You gotta get because the thing with Long Island too is that from Start to tip. Start is kind of, I mean, you can quantify it as Queens is kind of the start of Long Island from west to east. The east is as far you can go is Montauk.
Yeah.
It's about, I would say, 350 miles. But there are so many small towns inside that I mean, my town is like from tip to tip, I would say no more than 4 miles. I mean, it's small.
So it's like the Nederland of New York.
But it's got 25,000 to 30,000 people in it. So they pack it in. So you got to be really specific with your zip and your postal codes, because if not, I mean, you're just another Long Island kid, and no one wants that.
Yeah, well, you're in the 409 now, and you know it. So
the 409, 516 isn't really a good area code to kind of rep. Like 409, like when you have that 9 at the end, like that's when you can 9. Like that's when you put some emphasis on it.
And O is not a number, but we still go O anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you
can't say 409.
409 makes it sound like you're trying to be too proper. Yeah.
Do you really?
I try to say 0 as much
That's
as
like
possible.
the proper way.
Yeah.
Like the proper English
well, look
way.
at us. So we're very proper.
What if you're trying to bang your chest? You got to say 409.
Well, I may have been born just plain white trash, but Fancy was my name. So that's kind of how I feel about that.
Sir Fancy.
All right.
The Vidorian Fancy.
So fancy, yeah.
Vidorian Fancy is like regular not fancy. Okay. So you're raised in, what was the name of the town again?
Rockville Center, New York. So Rockville Center.
Rockville Center.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, that's weird. Actually.
Rockville Center.
So
okay.
center with because like when you think of because I have a lot of people that say when I say Rockville Center they think I'm saying Rockefeller Center, which you can't. Well, you can't live there. Yeah, unless you're living on the ice rink, you can't live there.
Right.
It's weird that I'm wearing there. So I have like, it's a really cool shirt. Actually, I'm gonna put that on my mic.
Let me see it.
Oh, that's cool,
It's got all
man.
the bars and the pubs of Rockville Center. I like it.
It's a pretty heavy bar town. We have like so there's a train station that runs all through Long Island, and it runs kind of right through the downtown part of Rockville Center. And Rockville Center is known as like the bar town of Long Island, kind of. So everyone from other towns will go on the train, get dropped off Rockville Center, and come there. Because I mean, in our small town, we have like, I mean, this is just a handful of them. We have like. We're maybe an alcoholic kind of town, but I mean, I think we're just a smart town that we know that we have a lot of options. But yeah, we have a ton of towns in Rockville Center. It was a great place to grow up.
And you were like 40 minutes away from New York City, right?
I was 40 minutes, 39 technically. That's what the Long Island Railroad.com train schedule would say. 39 minutes.
Okay.
But my parents just moved actually from Rockville Center to Long Beach, so they're right on the beach, and that's about an hour 10 away. So they're farther south.
Now, after you left high school, I guess, you went to South Carolina, and I know there's a story behind that.
University of South Carolina.
So go ahead with South Carolina.
Well, so my thing was that I was kind of sick of just the snow in the Northeast. When you grow up in the Northeast, and it was kind of my thing in my town where you kind of get stuck. I felt like, I mean, you could see it in Beaumont. It's just that you don't have to go anywhere because it's a lot cheaper than the big cities. Like when you're near Houston, I'm near New York City, where it's just so much cheaper, and you're in a suburb, and it feels more homey. And I was done with the people that I live with. Not that I didn't like it. I mean, I have a lot of friends that I still hang out with when I go up there in New York. But I was just done with the North and Northeast culture, and knew I wanted to try something else. The problem was money. So I didn't know. I knew if I wanted to go to a big school and a school that I wanted to go to, I was going to need to get a scholarship. And then there was also the thing of I had looked at a couple small Pennsylvania, small New York, and small New Jersey D3 schools to play golf at.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, do I want to trade in the 35,000 student population of South Carolina or the 1,500 of McDaniel in Maryland, which I could have walked onto and like had a great time playing 5 days a week of golf, but like in the end of the day, it's 1,500 kids, and you're next to like you think of cow pastures. This is Cow Central. This is Cow USA. Was near McDaniel College. So anyway, I applied really up and down the East Coast. I went as far down as Georgia, University of Georgia, and as far north as SUNY, which is State University of New York, Albany. just looking for kind of a scholarship. So I applied to all over the place. And actually, because of Hurricane Sandy is the only reason I went to the University of South Carolina.
Really?
Because Hurricane Sandy happened my fall of my senior year of high school. And it took out power for like 2 weeks. The only place that really had power, we got power after a week, but a lot of places didn't. The only place that had power was the library. And this was around the time where I knew I was like, I need to start applying to school. So I just applied everywhere and applied for every single scholarship under the sun. Whatever I could get scholarship-wise, I applied to. Applied to all of them in South Carolina. They ended up giving me a good amount of money, which ended up, kind of taking away the cost of anything I really needed. It ended up being, for me, almost as cheap to go there as some of the state schools in New York, which I was pretty blessed because I didn't deserve it. I had a really shit GPA. Sorry for the curse. I don't know. I don't know if we're doing
we can bleep it out or leave it in, whatever.
Okay. I had a really shit GPA. I just did really good on the really well on the ACTs. So I guess they looked at that, and then the rest is history. I mean, I knew I was going to spend a little more to travel down to South Carolina, but I'm getting SEC football, and people from here know it. Football is such a different experience where in Long Island, no one plays football. You play soccer, you play basketball, you play lacrosse, and then there's the intermittent. I mean, you play football, but you don't think of it as like this could be a next level. I didn't have one friend who played higher than a D2 as was that Springer that just hit a dinger?
Hit a home run
Springer
and tied
dinger?
up 1-1.
By the way, for those of you listening, we may have recorded this earlier than I actually put it on the internet. So there you go.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So Astros versus Red Sox, which I hope the Astros win. Yeah.
So
In the 8th inning.
No one likes Boston.
so this whole sports thing, baseball's horrible. But this whole sports thing, it's made me want to ask you. I know that you like sports a lot.
Yeah.
Being a sportscaster, I think, is something you've wanted to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, so the whole part of journalism that I wanted to get into is I knew I was always. It was for me when I was growing up. It was either between journalism and being an English teacher. I had really good English teachers, really great English teachers actually in high school.
This is my favorite thing about you so far, but go ahead.
Shout out, Mr. Mullooly, and
Mr. Mullooly.
My junior year. Yeah, you want to talk about an Italian name? Mullooly sounds straight out of like a Goodfellas movie script.
Yeah.
Killing his own people.
Yeah. But I had a great English teacher junior year, and he kind of not guided me, but like kind of made me hone into like being a better student and being a better just learner and everything. And I knew I read all the time. I try to read as much as possible, even like,
What's your
with
favorite
the
stuff
schedule.
to read? I know this is off topic. I like to read though, so I just want to know.
It's kind of I don't know, because nonfiction is so great. Like my favorite books of all time are by oh crap, now good, I can't remember, but it's Eric Larson, and he's done a lot of Eric Larson.
Okay,
and he's a New York Times bestseller. He's done a lot of books. Devil in the White City, actually. Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio bought the rights to it because he wanted to do a story on this book. Martin Scorsese was told that he was going to direct it. And it's about a Chicago, the first serial killer, H.H. Holmes, is the first serial killer kind of in the U.S. history. So it's about the Chicago World Fair in accordance with the Chicago World Fair. So it's such a great book. He dives in. Yeah, well, it's been going on for years, and they've been going through writers and directors. Anyway, he does a couple of great books. One about the Lusitania, one about U.S. Embassy in Germany during World War II. He does another good one about Galveston, which is really cool. It's about the Great Hurricane in 1900. So when I was over in Galveston, he does it's the main character is Ernest Cline. He was a person with the National Weather Service at the time. I don't think it was called the National Weather Service, but about how he kind of went through his ways of trying to decipher if this was a hurricane or not. And there was this whole thing about basically the U.S. government screwed over Galveston, and that's why 5,000 people died, because the Cubans knew this was a big hurricane, but the U.S. didn't want to acknowledge that they knew what they were talking about. So they said the hurricane went up the Florida Gulf Coast, and really it went through the Gulf of Mexico into Louisiana and into Texas and all that stuff. Great book. Anyway, he's a great author, but there are a couple I just like reading. Usually if it's a New York Times bestseller, it's pretty safe to read.
Yeah, that's true.
My favorite book ever is The Power of One. It's about a South African kid who grows up to be this basically boxing champion. And it's just like, it's pretty just like life-changing for me. Just like the way you just think about like the hardships, because this kid went through like, it's not a true story, it's fiction, but he goes through hell and back basically, and it's a really good book.
Well,
but anyway,
so few people read now. Like, it's not a very
and it's
common
like,
area.
and I understand why not. I mean, there are so many other
Game of
avenues
Thrones
to
is a
learn.
good
Oh,
show.
exactly, yeah. I mean, like, but I'm reading those books right now, so I'm on the second. I mean, at the end of the second book to the third book, and if you love the shows, I mean, there's no reason to not read the book because it's just the show on steroids, basically. And it's just so good. Like, it gives you so much more information. And George R. R. Martin is such a good author and knows how to... Well, and the characters, but he just knows how to develop the characters and develop the story. And the problem with these last two seasons, we're, like, going on tangents left and right. But the problem with these last two seasons is that, like, the character development has stalled and the story development has stalled because... For me, the writers just don't know what to do, which is not no one's problem because
they're past his book.
That and it's just turned into a huge undertaking of ending the show the right way that I don't think anyone has the answers to, and that's no one's problem.
They're trying to get to the end so fast. They didn't give enough episodes to get to the end.
So, and the thing is, the writers of Game of Thrones are going to be the new writers of the Star Wars trilogy, and that starts in 2022.
They're more focused on that.
You can tell. I mean, that's the reason they did 6 episodes. That's the reason they are trying to rush through this season. I mean, and it's no one's fault. I mean, shit, it's 8 seasons. They should end it.
From what I heard, that HBO ordered 10 episodes, but they only wanted to do 6 because they're focused on the Star Wars thing. And
that whole thing of like,
yeah.
oh, we're going to make it movie length, and then the first 3 are 55 minutes, and the next 3 are an hour 20. That's a mini documentary. That's a Super Size Me. That's not a movie.
I'll just say, the last episode I thought was awesome. Made me happy.
I thought it was good too. I thought it was great. I thought visually it was unreal.
I hate how people want to change it. It is what it is. The story is what it is.
I mean,
don't
and you can't
change
do
it
because
what happens.
Well, and the problem is, like, everyone has their own theory. Everyone has their own way of going about it. That you're never going to end it the right way, and it's just.
Yeah. Okay, so back to
getting into journalism.
Hold on, I do want to, before you get into journalism, talking about books and reading. I don't know if you know anything about Clay Travis. He's a pretty outspoken guy lately.
Yes.
I just read his recent book, Republicans Buy Shoes 2, I think that's what it's called. I liked it. A very informative book. I thought it tells the story of how ESPN has become political and how most sports talk is political now. I think it's a very good book if you hadn't read it. I think it's pretty good. It has a lot of detail about stories that shouldn't have been big stories, that got turned into big stories. He's got his leanings, but, I mean, he was a big Obama supporter, Democrat for a long time until he started to realize how the media has turned into a far left-wing media. So it's a pretty good book. I mean, you can say what you want about Clay Travis. Story's pretty good. He's a smart guy. He's a lawyer. He's a pretty smart individual.
I think, no offense to Clay Travis, I think he's kind of an idiot. But, I mean, it's one of those things where you know your role in media. Like, if he's the outspoken guy in terms of being against the status quo, then especially of like the ESPNs, of Fox Sports 1, so then you got to be it. I mean, you got to be it.
He knows what to do.
Well, especially with the politics of ESPN, I think especially in the last year and a half, they have dumbed that down to an extreme because you saw what happened with that Michael Smith and Jamel Hill show. The sports at the 6 at 6 or whatever.
The 6, yeah.
The 6. They saw the backlash of it, and they realized that there needs to be a fine balance between politics and highlights that they aren't ready for yet. And that's the problem is I don't think they rushed into what they wanted to do, which I still think would have been successful and would have been really smart because I think Jamel Hill and Michael Smith's one of my favorite writers of all time. He covered NFL
great
for
writer.
years for the Maryland. I think.
And he's from the Northeast, too, so...
He went to Loyola, Maryland. He's a great NFL writer, and he's really smart. He knows what he's talking about. Jamel Hill, great writer for she was up in Detroit forever, and cover stuff nationally, but I think ESPN wasn't just ready for that.
Yeah.
And I think they rushed into it. And that's the thing with journalism is there are so many avenues that you could take, and I think it's diluting the center focus of perspective and like being smart about what you're saying. And it's not sad, but it's just like it's what it is. There are so many avenues: blogs, articles, writers, reporters, opinionators, I guess, like people who just write opinions, and it's just like there's too many options out there that it's just available. So you're going to see it, you're going to soak in some of it, or you're going to not soak in some of it, and you're going to be detested of it, and you're going to make an opinion from whatever you are rating, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I used to wake up and go to bed with SportsCenter. Now, I don't even know. The only time I turn on ESPN is when there's a live game on basketball, football, baseball. That's the only time I turn on ESPN anymore.
So I was, with journalism, especially with sports reporting, I was I was like the back end of like the way everyone thinks of SportsCenter, which is just every day is just highlights. Highlights, recaps. But when I was in high school, there was Grantland, which was an ESPN publication Bill Simmons created, and they had some of the most amazing writers on it. They had Rembert Brown, who's on the New York Mag. They had Wesley Morris, who's for the New Yorker, who did movies. Bill Barnwell, who does NFL.com. They had Andy Greenwald. They had Chris Ryan. They had so many guys who are just kind of sponged out now, but they were all in this Grantland publication,
and it's out of work now.
Obviously, out of work because they weren't making enough money, which is the problem, and that's why Bill Simmons created The Ringer, because he wanted to create more ad central stuff. Anyway, Grantland was kind of the central focus of why I wanted to turn to journalism, because you saw the way they sculpted stories and made you think and made you feel. Rembert Brown is, for me, the most influential writer, because he would make you laugh, cry, and think all at the same time. It's the same thing with that Jimmy V quote: you should laugh, you should cry, you should think. And that's, if you do those three things, he said, that's a hell of a day. And those three things in a piece, if it's going to be, he can do it in like 400 words in a Hawks piece about why Paul Millsap's a piece of shit or something like that. But like, he could do it.
So that's what inspired you, though, to go into broadcasting, right? Instead of being an English teacher. Because
and like, I was a realist. Like, print journalism is one of, if not the hardest profession to get into. It's just, there are so few and far between where you've got to do so much work before you even get that first job. That first job might not be what you want. With broadcast, I said, listen, this is a job where you can evoke emotions and evoke stuff through video. You're not going to do it through print. You can still do it through print. You can still write creatively. You can still write smart. But it's a different avenue, and you could show things and be creative in that way. And I figure, you know what? Like, in the end, maybe I do print and broadcast. Maybe I do both, because print was always I did one internship in my sophomore year at a newspaper for 2 days a week, and it didn't pay anything, and I was designing newspapers really the whole time. But it was still like I was near writers, and I was near like the daily grind of how people get stories and how stories get written, and it was pretty influential. So that's basically how I became a journalist.
Okay, so you go to South Carolina, you get a degree in
broadcast journalism. Yes,
broadcast
sir.
journalism.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You end up
pretty niche. You're not doing much after that.
But you end up here, which is I would think
Beaumont,
that
Texas.
when you were growing up,
not exactly what you dream of. No, it's not exactly Los Angeles, California. Yeah, it's not La La Land, is what they say. So after I graduated, I applied to a bunch of places. Scott Lawrence, the news director at Beaumont, was the first person to hit me up. I said, listen, I got two avenues. I can not take this job and look for a job that I don't know is going to be there, or I can take it. I went from New York to South Carolina. How hard is South Carolina to Beaumont, Texas? It wasn't hard until August 26th hit, 2017. I supposed to start work September 4th, 2017. So as I'm trying to pack up my house and figure out what the hell's going on, I'm watching Beaumont just get eviscerated by this hurricane. And then 4 days later is when I find out there's no water in Beaumont. So my apartment complex doesn't have power, so I can't get in touch with them. Everyone at work is working 24 hours a day, basically. And there's no water. There's no drinking water in Beaumont.
welcome to the area.
I'm
by
like,
the way.
what in
We're
the
glad you come.
did I just get myself into? Seriously. And I remember just talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, like, what, like, how do I even, like, live there, let alone just, like, because I was through Hurricane Sandy, but that was a couple trees down. There, Long Beach got hit a lot harder, but my part of town and most
Chris,
part of towns were.
when we have a natural disaster, we try to make it be the worst natural disaster.
I mean, listen,
that
you guys don't mess around. You say if we're gonna get hit, let's get hit. We don't want a jab. We want a knockout blow.
We like to test our systems from time to time.
So I remember
I had to miss one of the podcasts we were doing because we had 4 feet of water in my house.
Thanks a lot, Harvey.
I didn't miss the
Jerk.
podcast at all.
No,
I did
because
the
you're committed.
podcast.
You're committed.
I was on my roof and I was
God
like,
damn it!
listen here.
If I had the podcast myself, if my guest has to be the rain.
I was like, we're not playing flag football this week because there's a hurricane.
Yeah, well, that could get.
Well, quick side note to all that. Troy, you know what happened during that entire hurricane?
Astros just scored another run, 3-1 in the top of the 8th.
Baseball needs to end as a sport. But anyway, you know what happened during that entire hurricane? The SETX FFL flag flew outside of my house.
It stayed up the whole time.
It stayed up through the hurricane and the divorce I was going
Now
through.
the flag's in a box.
I had to burn it. It
Touched the ground.
Yeah, it touched the ground. Anyway, Chris, I'm sorry. Okay, so you moved here during the hurricane.
Well, technically, so I called up the HR and I was like, listen, I need 2 weeks. Like, I can't get in contact with anyone. So I started September 17th, 2017. And today's what, May 17th, 2019?
Yes.
And I'm here. So, I mean, that's life, I guess, basically, up until this point. I mean, I've just been chilling. Chilling, yeah.
All right.
One of the best follows on Twitter if you get him. It's one of the best
And,
follows.
well, and the thing with the Twitter, and we were talking about this before, is that I don't want to say pride myself in it, but like I've never changed who I am whenever. In 2009, when Twitter was the wild, wild west, when Kevin Durant was talking about drinking Reese Witherspoon's bathwater and Steven Jackson was getting into fights with people on Twitter for saying he sucked, like I was still like making the same jokes. It's just like Twitter has just been such a funny evolution, such a fun place to see evolve. I mean, it's kind of sad where it is now, where it's like everything is either like, it's kind of like Facebook. It's like everything's either politicized or a meme or like a really bad joke that somehow gets 40,000 replies and 70,000 comments. But I mean, it's something that I've grown up with. So,
In case we have a lot of older listeners, how can they find your MySpace?
you know, I did have a MySpace too in 6th and 7th grade, and my
6th and 7th grade.
Yeah.
MySpace was when I was in my early 20s.
No.
Go
6th
ahead.
and 7th grade, and my name was Schmafooly. Yeah.
Schmafooly.
Yeah. I've had some weird things. Actually, if you were to go on Facebook.com, I'll say it right, I guess. Facebook.com/Mucho Mango.
Backsplash, you said. Backsplash.
Backslash.
All right.
Backslash. Mucho Mango. My Facebook would come up. Because I was obsessed with Arizona iced tea at the time, and that was one of the flavors. So I changed it, and I don't know how to unchange it. So it's just like that forever now.
For anyone who's listening to this in the whole world, Chris is in his early to mid 20s,
Yeah,
and
24.
I'm somewhere around 80 years old. So this whole MySpace being a 6th and 7th grade thing to me is foreign because I was like, I don't know, young and virile.
I didn't get a cell phone or a computer till I was 23 years old, Chris.
Yeah, I started with the Razor in 6th grade.
I remember those.
The Razor,
I remember those.
We were an AT&T fam. We were loyal to the grind.
All right. You've covered several news stories now. You've been here for like 2 years?
2 years, yeah. I've covered. It's a pretty wide range. I've been from sports. I've done the state championship game. I was up there with Newton with WT and the Westbrook game, which unfortunately ended with Westbrook losing to Longview. I've covered murder capital trials with Delisert in Hardin County. I was in Jasper during the James Byrd thing. I covered an alligator that like 60 people went and saw in a canal to like, street problems.
I
and
like
drainage
that
problems.
you've covered an alligator that 60 people
the,
came and
that's
saw
like
in
the
a
409
canal.
thing to do. That's why I heard, like, if you come
what
to
we do,
409,
man.
it's like, if you come to New York, you need to go and get a slice of pizza, or you need to visit the Statue of Liberty. In Beaumont, you need to find a gator and cover it.
When we have a story, it's a story.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody knows about it. If it's the guy down the street that's cooking meth, or if it's the gator in somebody's backyard, everybody knows about it.
You know what's funny? It's this area is so Facebook centric. It's almost unreal how much people use Facebook here. I've never seen it in my life. Which helps. I mean, it helps as a journalist because you get some stories from it. You get sources from it. You get people who will call you about, like, have you seen this on Facebook? But it's also like, damn, Facebook is like just taking over.
And I bet people would say, oh, I know that guy from Channel 6 News. Well, have you seen him on TV? No, but I follow him on Facebook.
Yeah, I'll click the links on Crime Watch in Vidor, Texas. But that's what happens. I mean, it's so Facebook centric. It's just it's unreal, but it has its benefits and concerns. But like the benefits are like, damn, I mean, it's out there right away.
Yeah,
away.
Yeah, it's easy to find a lot of details about things too. Yeah,
and that's a good thing about it. I mean, that's social media for you. But like, I had always been like Twitter first. Like Facebook has always been whatever.
Yeah.
But Twitter has always been like, I mean, that's why if you look at my Twitter, I follow 4,500 people. It's all beat NBA writers, beat NFL, national news, local news, all that stuff, because it's just so easy to get your stuff from it. So it's like, for me, Twitter was just...
Yeah. And speaking of NBA, I want to go back to your hometown area. I know you're a Knicks fan. I know you have a Zion tattoo somewhere on you. Tell me about, what do you think about the Knicks, and what do you think about the draft, the lottery? What do you think about it?
I think being a Knicks fan is like... if you were a voodoo doll, like you were just getting stuck by needles, and there was no escape from it. I mean, it's just, I started my Knicks-loving careers with Stephon Marbury, and like, for as great as his shoes were, and as cheap as they were, he never won more than like 35 games. To right now, which is, we have 35 games won, or maybe we won 25 this year, and our best player was...
gone.
Well, Chris,
I'm paying Porzingis. He's your best player. He was your best player.
Mess. Speaking of what happened to him, I mean, between him getting beat up in Russia, the rape allegation against him, his brother who's just being a conniving douchebag, basically, like, it's right now. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because who knows what the deal is with this guy. But obviously, it hurts because you just spent a 4th-round draft pick on him, and then to see him leave. And then we next draft, we get Frank Ntilikina instead of getting Dennis Smith, and then we end up with Dennis Smith anyway.
Yeah.
And they both end up sucking.
You're about to have R.J. Barrett, too, who's pretty damn good.
No.
You could have Zion.
I don't want R.J. Barrett near. I don't want him to sniff New York.
I
want him as far away as possible.
You're about to have R.J. Barrett in your locker.
I'd rather have the wings, the jalapeno wings that were just eaten at this table, than R.J. Barrett.
I had some jammin' jalapeno wings and a few mango habanero wings, and they were delicious, and I may have turned red, and I may have sweated. And
you may have asked to take the plate away with wings still on it.
Cody asked the waitress to take the plate away because they were too hot.
He was making me sweat because he was sweating so much.
Look, guys, let's not.
No, but that's a pass. That's a pass. Let's talk about the president.
Let's not parse nipples here. Anyway, so Chris, since you've been here, what is your favorite, and I don't mean favorite like most important, like what's your favorite news story you've covered, that you just thought was either the most enjoyable or you just thought was just kind of awesome?
That's a good question. Most enjoyable, I mean, the one that I was talking about with the Gator was just such a weird day because I was having troubles finding stories, and a story fell through, and I heard this call through the scanner, and it was that there was a Gator in the canal, in a ditch, and there were like multiple agencies trying to get it, and they couldn't get it. And my assignment editor was like, go out there and see if like that's a story, because it could be a story. And when we got there, it was Gary Sargent Gator Country. there were like 50 people around there. There were county workers, Texas Wildlife Department workers, Belmont Police, and they just couldn't get this damn gator out of the canal. And it ended up taking like 4 hours in like 110-degree heat. I was like tweeting like a fiend, and like everyone was like, "This is just so weird and stupid, but so funny." That was a good one, but like really the best ones are just like ones that you know that you really worked hard on. Like, I don't know if there's one in particular, but like I've done a lot of stories with the slaughterhouse that's possibly opening in Tyler County and now Newton County, and there's a lot of things going back and forth. And you work sources with it, and you try and dig deeper into what the slaughterhouse would do to the community, whether pros and cons and all this stuff. And I think it's just like at the end of the day, when you know that like you're like putting some stuff in the public that like a lot of people should know, I think that's like, I would say the most enjoyable, because like you're not going to be like, oh, that was fun, but like at the end of the day, we go like, that was the most impactful, because that could be what it was, you know.
So are you responsible for finding the story, or is there a news director tells you go here and check this? Or?
So before you get into I work afternoon, so 1:30 to 10:30. Our meeting's at 1:30. We have stories lined up. So whether that's checking agenda meetings for cities, checking Facebook, which obviously happens, calling sources, calling public officials, seeing what's going on, getting emails from people who said like, do this event. You have 3 to 4 stories that you have, and then depending on the strength of them, what's going on after that, what's going on before that, if there's something that needs to be addressed that I don't know about, our news director, our assignment editor, our executive producer, will say, you know, we should be covering this more than the other things. We should look at this first. Check these sources before you go onto another story. So there's definitely a checks and balances where we'll say something, then they'll say something, we'll agree on a story, and then from there, you just go for it. And, you know, it's the daily struggle. Sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's easy of, you got to produce a story a day, so you work with what you got. And, you know, it's every day is new, which is the cool thing about the job, is that every day is new. And you're out meeting people. It's weird when people know you. There's a guy from Subway who always says, "Hey, Chris," like, I still don't know his name, which is so annoying, because like I kind of pride myself in knowing people's names. This guy always just like knows my name, and it's kind of cool just to be a public figure. Not that it's cool because like I want people to know me, but it's just like it's one of the perks of it, you know.
Well, here's a question I have that I've always thought that I hear you see national news, and there'll be a story going on. And there'll be a story locally that's the exact same story as something nationally, but never gets talked about nationally around here. Why is that? Is this because we're just so compact in our area, we're so local here, or is it, I mean, what's the difference?
I mean, that's true. It's there are national news that you could definitely localize.
Yeah.
So whether it's, like recently, it wasn't nationally, but it was statewide, Texas reduces or increases the age of smoking from 18 to 21.
Yeah.
You localize it. You speak with the American Cancer. Oh my God, that's spicy. Hold on a second. Oh.
Chris just grabbed a little too spicy wing.
The carry and jerk. The American Cancer Society, and speak with them about how this would impact, teenagers, how it would impact young adults. You try and go to like a Walmart or CVS that had recently been banning or, you know, increasing it on their own. And you go from there. But there are other things that are just like very local right here that you just can't touch on nationally. It's just the way things work, and you just work with the stories that you got, really. Which is cool because, I mean, like, you know, each town has their own stories and each town has their own thing.
Okay, so we've been talking to you now for like 30 minutes, and I'm sure you're exhausted.
I mean, some might say.
But I need to ask you a few Southeast Texas things to see if you've
I like that.
assimilated to the area. Have you eaten crawfish?
Yes, a lot. Actually, this season I've eaten much more than last season. Last season I probably only had it like 4 times. This season I probably had it 15.
Do you like them?
Love it. I'm a huge seafood guy anyway. Not that crawfish is seafood. I think of it as seafood. I mean, it's mud bugs, basically.
Yeah. I think of it.
You suck the heads.
Yes. I'm a huge suck the heads guy, actually, yeah. I love them. And
well, just let me contrast you for just a second. I hate crawfish, because they're a complete pain in my ass. But
So you do work way too hard for as little meat as you get.
it's ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, they're sort of tasty at the end of the day. Okay, so you eat crawfish. Before you lived here,
Yes.
how many football games have you gone to?
Football.
High school football.
High school football won. And that was homecoming my senior year, and we lost by 40 points. Shout out the Southside High School Cyclones. Southside.
After you moved to Southeast Texas, how many high school football games have you gone to?
I had the fortunate opportunity of working with the Tailgate Show for our KFTM 6 News sportscast. So I went to at least one a game every week. And they were really good games. I mean, I went to some really good games. I had the opportunity to go to see Rashawn beat Nearland this year at Mid-County Madness. So I would say at least 1 week, so 13, 14, 15, 15.
And I've always said that Southeast Texas is very religious, very Southern, Baptist, Catholic, very Christian religion. I still say that high school football is the biggest religion in Southeast Texas.
And from someone from New York, you watch these Friday Night Light shows. You watch these the Last Chance U.
Yeah.
And it's like, what in the hell? Like, there's no way life can be like this. And then you come here, and life is like that. I mean,
That's
it
it.
really does revolve around football. And it's not just like you talk about it every day. It's not on everyone's mind all the time. But it's like, where are you going to be on Friday nights? You're going to be at a football area.
Yeah.
You're going to be watching your local team play. You're going to be watching your family or your friend's family or someone that you know that is playing. And it's a really cool town bonding experience that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I went to school at University of South Carolina. We had the Gamecocks, and we played all these great teams. And the Columbia and South Carolina was huge on not just the rivalry of Clemson and South Carolina, but just rivalries in SEC. But high school is so localized. It's so personal. It's so cool to see. Like Mid-County Madness, for example. I mean, you are on the border of each other. You're right next to each other. And to have, 20,000 people coming to your games is so asinine to anyone else besides someone who lives in the 409. Someone who lives in Texas, basically. Because there are other, California football, they have big high school football. But, Texas takes it personal in a good way. And it's so cool to be a part of.
Yeah. And I've always said that you could have Beyonce come to Ford Park 10 weeks out of the year, 10 straight weeks. The crowds would get lower and lower every week. But you have a football game in here every week, the crowds are going to either stay the same or get higher.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we care more about football than the biggest acts in America. We really do. It's amazing. High school football is the biggest thing around here.
It's cool.
We've had the Arena League football. We've had a professional hockey team here. All that stuff. They leave because nobody shows up. But if you put a high school football game there, you'll have 20,000 people there every week.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a really cool experience. I'm definitely happy for that, for being down here for that.
All right, Chris. I'm certain you're bored with this at this point.
I mean, I like you guys enough.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I gave you guys free wings and free beer.
Well,
I'm not going to brag, but I'm basically the
You're
Red
holding
Cross.
this show up. I understand.
Well, I want to know, since you're from New York, you've been in the North, you've been to South Carolina, you've been to Beaumont, Texas. What is the difference between North and South? Maybe rivalries in sports, or maybe just culturally. What's the difference? What do you see that's the difference?
Well, everything, and I've said it when I started, everything in the South is slower, for good or for bad. There's a story where me and my mom were, I'll say it real quickly, me and my mom were on campus in South Carolina in the summer for our orientation, and we were walking up this huge hill, we were talking to each other, and there was a guy on a bike behind us, up a hill, who didn't say anything, about passing us or excuse me or whatever, for 5 minutes. And if that was New York, you're getting punched in the back of the head. That's just the way it is. You're just getting punched in the back of the head. So everything is just slower down here. It just feels. But there are things in New York that I love. I love fast-paced things. I think people in the South take things a little more personally.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's a Mullooly true.
I get it.
Sorry.
It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm taking that very personally.
I'm some personal Mullooly. Yeah,
Go
we'll
ahead,
cut that
I'm
one
sorry.
too.
Yeah, all right.
What was I even saying? Oh well, no. Everything is. I mean, it is more personal, which is kind of weird. And I think that plays into it's more religious down here. Everyone is more religious. Which, not that everyone. I mean, I was raised as a Catholic. I was very. I went to mass. I was an altar server. I was in the choir. Shout out choir. St. Agnes Cathedral.
Yes, go
Huh?
choir.
Well, we'll ask you to sing something in a little bit then.
Yeah. We'll sing Purple Rain.
That would be pretty cool.
Well, no, I'm not singing it. I'll just speak it.
Well,
It'll be like
what are you
spoken
gonna
word,
do?
Def Jam. But everything is like New Yorkers are just like more rude. Like that's what it is. Like everyone is more rude. What we throw around curse words like it's like turkey on Thanksgiving Sunday. It's just like everyone just throws it around and they don't really care about it and just. I mean, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's so different in terms of like just living arrangements too. Like everything is so cheap in the South. It's so weird. It's so crazy that like everything in the Northeast is so much more expensive for no reason. For no reason until just like they do it because they want to.
Yeah.
Which is the great thing about living here. I mean, you
All
guys
right.
have seen it.
So you're on Twitter.
Twitter at Chris Mullooly. Yes, Chris Mullooly. Facebook is Chris Mullooly. Give me a follow. And if you guys like this stuff, I mean, I basically just spew conscious. And I feel really bad. I was listening to a podcast earlier with Scott Van Pelt, and he kept on apologizing for these long answers.
We're not as good as Scott Van Pelt.
Well, no, he was apologizing for the long answers, and like my answers were like 12 minutes long. It's
But
so
we
annoying.
love your answers.
I know.
47.5 minutes into this.
I know.
Several minutes were
Well, that's
me
what I thought.
digesting.
I thought we were
wings, so.
doing like the Godfather of podcasts, where we're just going to make a 3.5. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is good. This is good. This is like
No,
this
I'm
is-
good. You're terrible. Chris is fine. I'm fine.
now I'm just fine.
Well, you're a.
Whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to be a reoccurring guest. I'll tell you that after this. I give you wings. I give you beer. I don't give you sports.
We are
but
going to ask you to do characters
a
on some
plug
of
for
our
Buffalo
commercials.
Wild Wings. You guys need a sponsor, by the way.
We do need a sponsor to pay for all this.
Get like Panda Express. They would love to do it.
Panda Express. Before we all go,
Are we talking about
Panda Express has the most indifferent, not
Customer
different,
service?
but indifferent fellas that work there that I've ever seen in my life.
I agree
I
wholeheartedly.
have yet to see a panda in that place.
There's not one panda, and he's not fast.
No, I'm not saying that. They're not hurrying at
So
all.
it's neither Panda nor Express. And the people that work there, I'll be like, I'd like the chow mein. And then they will say things like, well, hang on. And there might be a guy that comes back and gives me chow mein, and
Yeah.
there may not be. And I'm just there to wait like some sort of
like some zoo animal.
zoo animal, like a panda,
Like
if
a
you
panda.
will.
Man.
like waiting for
That's
my
why
mate.
they named it that, because it comes full circle.
You know what?
yeah.
I'm glad that we've all found something we hate. Panda Express, but I'll still go there because their food makes me have
and if they want to sponsor me, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying do better.
This report brought to you by Chris Mullooly.
Yeah. Brought to-
Yeah.
I know. I wish I had like a what? Do they have a motto?
Their motto is, "Don't worry,
Like
you'll
Subway
get your
Eat
food."
Fresh, Panda Express.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to wait.
Panda Express. Eh.
Panda Express. You know what you got yourself into.
Well, our motto here on the
not exactly
Amateur Hour
China.
podcast is medium, so that's about it.
Yeah, our motto is medium. We
I
try
know,
to.
and I feel bad we didn't talk on any flag football.
Nobody cares about that shit.
Well, I mean, good luck to the championship teams,
All right. Well, Chris,
There you go. Good luck
All
to
right.
those guys. Congratulations, I guess, because it's after the
top
championship.
the
Yeah.
top two teams in the league are the 409, or I would say the 409 boys
And the show
and the showstoppers. Let's say they play in the championship. Who do you predict will win?
I mean, listen, you have a team like the 409 boys. They already have a couple Z's in their name. They know that they're. Oh, they have one Z?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought they were a little greater than that. I think they're a bunch of good boys. Yeah, I think they're a bunch of good boys. I think they're a bunch of Westbrook alum who think they're just better. No?
Nope, you're completely wrong. Bunch of Silsby people.
Silsby people. You
Pretty
know what they
much,
say
in
about
Jasper.
Silsby?
Sales billions?
Exactly. That's what they say about Silsby.
Where do you think the Showstoppers people are from?
Well, the Showstoppers. Listen, I've heard good things about them. I'm not judging their talent. I'm just judging their work ethic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Am I going to get in trouble?
No, you're great. You're doing.
Are
really
you on
well.
the Showstoppers?
No, we're the herd.
No, our team
the
won't
Herd.
win anything.
The Colin Cow.
That sounds like I was about to say that sounds like a John Gruden-led team.
Is Colin. We're named after the herd.
Gotcha. You know the
That's not-
Showstoppers. I mean, they're either
Michael's showstopper. That's where that came from.
I might have to rethink this whole thing. How about we just hope for a good game. That's all you can hope for.
Okay.
You
That's
know what? I'll
very
say
good.
28-21 Showstoppers.
2021 Showstoppers.
I heard they have a great pass rush.
They do. Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about their quarterback.
Thanks for coordinating. He's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been very fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate
Do you have
it.
anything else? Any closing
No, I
remarks?
just if you guys have anything that like 409 wise I have to go to, let me know on Facebook or Twitter because you never know when you're heading out of here, and I kind of want to hit all my stops before I leave. And I feel sometimes you feel a little yeah, and sometimes you feel like
I've
you're a
hit
little
Thursdays.
like not secluded, but like you stay in pockets. And I want to branch out more. So let me know, and I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I really this is my first podcast, and I will never forget your first podcast.
Oh, dude, you're great. We really enjoyed you. At least I did. And I'll let Troy have the last word with you.
No, just thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Man, I mean, what else can you say? That was fantastic. We appreciate you coming on. Crack on.